Hey y'all, you heard it right. This channel is changing. Starting today, this channel will solely focus on propane and propane accessories. That's a lie, but the channel changing isn't. I mean, the thumbnail is clickbait. Sorry, but I need those views. I need that clout, okay? Look, the channel is not going away. It's not dying. I'm still gonna be putting out fashion content, and I hope it's content you like. I know if you don't like it though, you'll let me know. It's never stopped any of you in the past, and I doubt that'll be changing anytime soon. So what's actually changing? Well, the type of stuff I cover. What will I be covering and how will it be different from what I've done before? Well, let's get into it. Yo, before we get too much further, subscribe to the channel. I make tons of luxury and streetwear content, and also, if you're looking for deals on luxury and streetwear, check the description. I've got some of the best sites with all authentic stuff. Check it out. So here's the thing. My personal fashion style has evolved and changed drastically over the years. You might not realize it, but I only got into clothes and fashion pretty recently in the grand scheme of things. I actually started the channel pretty soon after getting into the subject in the first place. When I first got into this world, it was primarily through streetwear. I was focused on Supreme and Palace and Noah, basically like elevated skate brands and stuff like that. And it's absolutely true to me, even still, that a person looks better in a Supreme fit than a Walmart fit. But I'm kind of like monomaniacal when I get into something, and clothes were no different. Pretty quickly, I realized that just wearing hype streetwear t-shirts wasn't enough for me to feel like I was like elevating my style to the place that I wanted it to be. And beyond that, I looked around at the streetwear scene and I didn't feel like I had a lot in common with the other people who were wearing those clothes. In fact, more often than not, I found them actively annoying. It's kind of like I don't care if you like the way a Karen haircut looks. If you get that haircut, I'm gonna think you're a Karen, even if you're like a super nice person. And if you look at any streetwear focused comment section online, you'll see that it's full of homophobia and heteronormativity. No hate to straight cis people, I'm one as well, but if upholding cis straightness is like super integral to your personality, I'm out real fast. So all of that being said, I felt like I needed to branch out more. I explored some more facets of the streetwear scene like Bape and CDG Play, and eventually that led me to the world of luxury streetwear. You know, Palm Angels, Off-White, brands like that. And you know what? I actually still like a lot of those brands, at least to a degree. I think their biggest problem is that they dump a lot of product that doesn't always seem to have a common design perspective, but there's definitely stuff worth saving there. My biggest problem is that I still just didn't connect with that side of fashion culture fully, or maybe I just didn't like what I felt like it said about me when I wore those clothes. I really go back and forth on this because I do think overall that those brands make some really dope clothes. But I have to say, when I see somebody else like decked out in Heron Preston or any of those brands, I kind of tend to think there's a person with too much money and not enough fashion knowledge. I know that's completely unfair because those brands have earned their place in the modern fashion landscape, but when your core product is t-shirts and hoodies, it's hard to convince people that there's more there. And of course, since I was following the fashion indoctrination pipeline, that inevitably led me to luxury clothing. The first luxury brand I really fell in love with was Gucci. It's just so recognizable and colorful, it felt like a great starting point. But remember when I said I get obsessive about this stuff? Well, I felt like there was no good way to figure out which brands I really liked unless I tried them all. So I set out to pick up at least one piece from every luxury brand that even slightly interested me. And you all out there, you viewers, have seen me do that because every time I got a new one of those pieces, I would learn about it, then unbox it, show you how to legit check it, and try it on in a video. But here's the thing, that can't go on forever. First of all, it's just not sustainable. For a long time now, I've been putting out as many as 4 videos a week. I can't, for the rest of time, be buying new luxury pieces to show you a dozen times a month. my bank account will literally not survive that. It's also taken a toll on my closet. I have literally no space in my living areas because they're all filled with clothes. And finally, the other reason it's not sustainable is because that whole process actually worked, actually achieved its original goal. It did help me figure out which brands I truly like and vibe with and which ones I don't. And now that I know those likes and dislikes, it doesn't make sense for me to keep picking up pieces from every brand under the sun when I feel they don't fit with the style I've landed on anymore. So that is why the channel is changing. I'm going to be shifting my in-hand clothing focused videos to a much smaller set of designers and brands, one that I've found actually work within the style I've been trying to build for myself. But hey, that doesn't mean those brands are all I'm going to talk about. For those of you that like my fashion news commentary videos, my fashion deals videos, or my fake fashion detective videos, well, that's lucky for you because I'm gonna keep doing them since they don't require me to actually buy clothes I'm not into. But I am still gonna do in-hand reviews, try-ons, and styling videos just with a much more focused perspective and aesthetic. So, with all of that out of the way, I think it's time to finally tell you which brands we'll be focusing on, which brands we won't, and why. So it's time to make some people mad. Let's go. So first, let's talk about the overall aesthetic I'm going for before diving in on specific brands. As I've said quite a few times on this channel, I grew up in the punk and hardcore music scene, and as I've picked up and collected all these different pieces from different brands, I've found myself gravitating towards the pieces that speak to that part of me. So what exactly does that entail? Well, it means a focus on a darker color palette, maybe some distressing, and a general underground rock and roll point of view. It also means leaning towards things that are maybe a bit louder, more in your face, or just off kilter in one way or another. So you're probably wondering then, what brands would actually fall into those categories? Well, I've laid it out into 3 separate tiers of brands and designers. The top tier are the ones that, at least for now, I'm going to focus on really building out my collection of, and maybe even beginning to archive, as you've started to see on the channel. The second tier are brands that I still have tons of interest in and will hopefully continue picking up somewhat often. The third tier are brands that I think fit within my style and will probably pick up pieces if it's the right piece at the right price, but I won't be focusing on building a collection of at this time. So, without further ado, here are my tiers. Tier 1 consists of just 2 designers/brands. First is Rick Owens. He makes clothes that just look how I want to look. It's as simple as that. His color palette is exactly where I want to be, and I find the cuts of his clothes flattering while also being interesting. I think I could build a fantastic, just everyday wardrobe out of Rick Owens' tops and pants, and I hope to do that. I also think he has some of the best footwear in the game, and I'd definitely like to keep exploring those as well. My other tier 1 focus is going to be Demna Gvasalia era Balenciaga. I don't think there's anyone else out there right now who appeals to my sensibilities so much while also having so much depth in their design. Just about every single Demna piece has some element to it that grabs my interest, whether it be a unique design aspect or an odd fit, silhouette, an element of distressing, everything. Another thing I love about Demna's Balenciaga is that both the menswear and womenswear appeals to me, so I found such a deep well of stuff to seek out and discover in his designs. And while I am really focused on his work at Balenciaga, I'm sure that from time to time I'll delve into pieces from his time designing for Vetements as well. Now, why only Demna era Balenciaga though? Why not go further back, maybe even get into vintage stuff by the brand? Well, first off, the designer at Balenciaga before Demna was Alexander Wang, and that dude's an abusive asshat, so I'm not touching any of his clothes with a 10-foot pole. Maybe I'll get into pre-Wang Balenciaga at some point, but for now, Demna's archives have more than enough for me to dig my teeth into. So that's tier 1, but what about tier 2? As I mentioned, this one is a bit wider than tier 1. First up is Eddie Slimane era Celine. His stuff is just super accessible and wearable, while also having enough actual design to it to be worth my time. Next up may be a surprise, Givenchy. Even the new stuff. I know I've said before that I'm not the biggest Matthew M. Williams fan, but like Eddie, he makes some really wearable individual pieces that fit my aesthetic perfectly. And the house in general has always leaned towards a darker, more like rock and roll goth vibe, so I'm down with it. Next up is Comme des Garçons Black. I guess I could have just said CDG as a whole, but that family of brands is just too huge and daunting to start out with, and I feel like the black line fits my sensibilities the best. Also in tier 2 is Hood by Air, especially their recent stuff since they relaunched. I've already said how much I love Demna's Balenciaga, and Shane Oliver at HBA has a very similar design perspective. Sometimes a bit too similar, but like I said, it fits my vibe, so I really can't complain. Finally, the last designer in my second tier is Raf Simons. He's the OG of punk rock luxury streetwear, and I don't think I could ever stop loving his clothes. While not everything he does matches my vibe, some pieces are just like a direct bullseye hit at my sweet spot. And that covers tier 2. Again, tier 3 is even bigger than tier 2, and I think my tier 3 has a lot more room for brands to move in and out depending on the collection or the individual piece. I also don't want this video to be an hour long, so I'll just give some quick examples of tier 3 brands for me. Ambush often hits the right vibe for me, especially their knits and other tops. Balmain is often like too yacht rock vibes for me, but sometimes they hit right, so I'm putting them in. And I think I could say the same for Saint Laurent. Enfant Riche de Prime own this very specific punk style that I really vibe with. Alix makes some really sleek, dark pieces I could see myself wanting. Marine Serre has this dark cyberpunk aesthetic that I definitely respond to. Rude is doing luxury streetwear in probably a more relatable way to me than anyone else. Yohji Yamamoto is a dark goth king of fashion, so I've gotta put him in. Misbehave hits those like raver elements that Demna sometimes hits too, and I love that. And finally, Kiko Kostadinov doesn't totally fit with the rest, but fuck it, I'm leaving him in because his stuff is just dope. Gosh darn, I think that's enough for today. Hopefully after all that, you've got a better understanding of where I'm coming from and the type of style I want myself and my channel to cultivate. But now, we've got to get into the really saucy stuff. Like I said, I sampled pieces from virtually every brand out there. Which ones do I feel just straight up don't fit with the vibe I'm going with here? Well, I think the best example of that is Versace. As you've heard, I'm focusing on dark, punk rock, goth, raver vibes, and Versace is like the absolute polar opposite of that. Versace is retro, gilded, neon, day-glow stuff. And that's not a put down. The stuff I've owned from them is comfortable, well-made, all of the above. Same goes for pretty much all the rest of the brands I'm going to mention here. But it just doesn't gel with the version of me that I see myself as. So if you want like a quick reference, what is low luxury not about? Think Versace. On a similar note, brands like Etro are just not gonna be on the menu here. I tried it out. I tried looking like some weird appropriating conquistador that went to the Middle East and brought back exotic garments made of beautiful paisley fabrics, but it just ain't for me, bruh. From a different angle, I doubt you're ever gonna see me buying any Fendi again. It's not bad or anything, it's just really brown. And I'm just not like a super brown kind of guy, you know? I'm also not vibing with Jacquemus. That's some real yacht boy stuff if I've ever seen it, and the one brand on this list whose clothes I actually found actively uncomfortable to wear. Finally, Dior. Now that's probably gonna be scandalous to some of you, but it's just like a hair too clean for me. I feel like I just need more edge than Kim Jones generally brings to the table. I can totally appreciate it, I just don't think I wanna wear it. And I feel like that's enough for today. I hope you understand better now where the channel is going, where my interests lie, and I hope that you'll join me for that journey because we're going to be taking a look at some really, really awesome stuff, and we're going to be diving deeper on brands than we ever have before on the channel. So far, we have just scratched the surface, and we are going to have so much fun in the future. So, new year, here we are, 2022, we got a new focus, and we're going to take a look at some really cool clothes. I hope you'll stick with me.